Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Bonjour. You are in Canada, so we can speak in French and English. Welcome to the fourth plenary meeting of the Global Alliance. So some of you will remember that the first one was really sort of a small planning meeting in snowy New York on January 28th, 2013. Today's program, our scientific program, called Transforming Genomic and Health-Related Data Sharing, follows 2 days of really exciting meetings of the working groups, the task teams, of the growing army of volunteers that composes the Global Alliance for Genomics and Health. It's my pleasure to open the meeting today, and we will start with a presentation by our Executive Director, Peter Goodhand. And I must say, as most of you know, he is, I won't say Energizer Bunny, or I won't say anything else, but he is the glue that holds all of us together, keeps us on track, and allows the sort of epigenetic dynamic nature, the task teams coming and going, creating people with ideas, and internationally to work together. So it's a great pleasure to ask Peter to do the opening address.
Thanks, Martha. And as Martha said, I'm Peter Goodhand. I've been associated with the Global Alliance from before its inception, and it's been absolutely the most rewarding, interesting element of my career to date. So who knows what comes next? But this has been a phenomenal 4 years that I've been associated with the Global Alliance. So I'm recognizing that there's at least 100 people in the room who are new to Global Alliance. I thought I'd just do a very quick run through of it. For those of you who've seen some of these slides before, my apologies, I will go quick. So this is courtesy of Mark Lawler. It's a great slide Mark put together. Clearly, because of the massive drop in sequencing costs, we were faced with an unparalleled generation of human genetic data. Question, how could we unlock its potential? How we could do it on a way that could be shared globally, and thus empowering, whether it was personalized or precision or stratified, but actually move it into healthcare. That was the challenge. Those who were looking at this back in 2012 recognized that it would need data from millions of samples, but the data wasn't organized. Even if that data could be generated, if it just went into the existing silos, if it was blocked by the existing constraints, and it was at human scale, we wouldn't be able to make sense of it, not the real interpretation. So a sense, if we didn't act, we'd face the same situation we see with health records in many countries, but collective action was needed. And I think as we got more and more into it, we looked to things like the World Wide Web or the global smartphone, telecommunications, as great examples of interoperability and enabling of many people. So as David always says, we collaborate on interoperability and compete on implementation. Those who talked about it in 2012 said we should stop talking and do something, so launch a global alliance. It's not exactly how we started, but that was the intent. From the beginning, it was never about bigger, better, faster research. It was about translating research and moving that research into better health for humanity. And we established for ourselves that we had to do that in a catalytic way, we had to do it in an enabling way, and look for harmonization. But we also did not want to be theoretical or shelfware. We wanted to actually drive that activity into practice. And so we identified data sharing projects. Here are our organizational milestones. As Martha said, the first ever meeting for about 50 people from 8 countries was January 28th, 2013. The first plenary was at the Wellcome Trust in March of 2014. I think we had just over 100 people. Next meeting would have been San Diego, and there we were close to 200. Last year in Leiden, we were over 200, and in this meeting here, we're about 370 people have joined this movement. And that is how it performs. It's more of a movement than it is a strict, rigorous organization. And often we feel loose and we feel a bit disorganized, but we move collectively in the right direction. We probably need to get more organized, more directive as we go forward. But that movement concept has brought us to where we are today. I'll come back later. Actually, if you just look at the bottom, September 18th, 2014 is when the Alliance formally launched. So in terms of the Global Alliance for Genomics Health, with its members and everything else, We're just a little bit over 2 years old. This is a basic organizational model. We've been led from the beginning by a steering committee that went from 8 people to 12 people to 14 people, and now has many friends. We joined last year with a strategic advisory board, and I'll show you those folks in a minute. But the driving force of the alliance are the 4 working groups, and those 4 working groups have sponsored about 35 task teams to date. Those task teams typically literally take on a task. It's time limited, it's got a deliverable, they do their work, they retire and move on. On the right-hand side is the data sharing projects. They actually involve the gathering, the sharing, the discovery of data, and we've got 4 at the moment, and we'll look to identify more. Although a real win for us is when we connect with and collaborate with existing initiatives. Here's our leadership steering committee and co-chairs of our working group. There is, I hope you all caught the news that we have a new chair-elect, and I think November 1st is when we've asked him to formally take over. Unfortunately, because this meeting was booked long ahead and so was his schedule, Ewan cannot be here today. He's blogged about it, we have press releases about it, and we'll see, hopefully we'll see a video of him later this afternoon. He's exactly the right leader we need for this phase of our development. Here's our Global Alliance Strategic Advisory Board. You'll see very familiar names and faces. We're incredibly privileged to have their support, and I think half of them were actually at the January 28th meeting in New York when we put the whole thing into motion. Today we've got over 400, I think it's 436 organizational members. We have over 800 individual members, 70 countries between them. But what I usually also point out is on the right-hand side of this slide, it's the diversity of our members across sectors. We need more patient groups, we need more healthcare, but the incredible bringing together of research and industry, in particular, 2 big groups that drive the alliance. This is not just in one sector, it crosses sectors. These are the number of volunteer contributors. Now, we have some super volunteers, so I have no doubt if we look at it as individuals, there'll be somebody who will be counted at least 3 times on those slides, and maybe 4. But essentially, these are contributions rather than individuals. But you see the scale of activity in our working groups and our projects. And we have 9 staff FTEs. It's more like a dozen human beings, but some of them are part-time. So the staff complement is 9, and there's over 1,000 volunteer contributions. It's a ratio of about 120 volunteer contributions for every staff member. To date, we've been working on 55 deliverables through that system. There are 27 currently at the design stage, 16 at development, and we've deployed 21 products. Doesn't mean they're finished when they're deployed. We want to have them used. We want to take them back and improve them as we go. We recently added a new catalog. We got 4 catalogs. We just added one, and where we've been scoping what is the extent of genomic data sharing and availability of genomic data in repositories and databases. And we were surprised to find that there are 89. I won't be surprised to find there's actually over 100, and we just haven't discovered them. So I would encourage you, if you're involved in data sharing, genomic data, please go to that catalog, look at it. If your work isn't in there, put it in there. And if in any way we've mischaracterized your work, then please tell us. We want to make this a very significant resource for knowing who is sharing data where. Just a couple of sites to say, I often look at these 2 worlds that we try and bridge, and on one we've got the proud legacy of tremendous global collaboration on genomic research, and I think it had to be, it was a necessity. You needed the funding, you needed the scale, you needed the scope to be able to lift up those major projects. On the other side though, when we look at healthcare, it's been incredibly jurisdictional-based, system-based, budget-based, and in this country, we have 14 different theoretical systems, if you actually drill down below it, many more for a population of 34 million. So you add healthcare after healthcare after healthcare, and a great difficulty in lifting the knowledge from genomic research into health applications. So what can we do as a global alliance? I think where we started today is, as we bring forward things to drive interoperability, our APIs, our standards, our frameworks, don't just design them on the left-hand side of this globe, but actually make sure that they've got relevance and they can operate in both sides of this. And then to the extent that we can, create new knowledge from that genomic research and make it readily accessible, readily findable for the community at large. So we can't change the way healthcare is delivered around the world, but we can certainly bring that knowledge over the top and make it more available around the world. I think we all hear about the emerging trend toward precision medicine in many high-income countries, but better population health is desperately needed in most of the world. I think that both need a much greater precision understanding of omics, and that needs to be brought forward as quickly as we possibly can. Fourth plenary, the one we're at today, 370 attendees over the 3 days from 240 organizations based in 34 countries, and half of the participants in this 3-day conference are new to GA4GA, so welcome. We've had 3 days in Vancouver. I now know if you're going to organize a meeting in a beautiful city, do it the day after a typhoon goes through, because that way the weather will be so miserable that everybody will stay in the conference for 3 days. Nobody's wanted to go and discover Vancouver. It is beautiful. We've had 2 days of very high energy productive meetings. We've covered all major topics for all 4 working groups, all 4 demonstration projects. We've had many side meetings for the groups I've listed there. And I'll bet you there's been 1,000 conversations in hallways and bars and over dinner. And there's been a real sense for 2 days for those who've been here. A lot of high energy. And as Bart has said, the whole thing is to try and move this closer to action. So I'd like to say a big thank you to our sponsors. These are the people who specifically sponsored this meeting. And so the coffee you're drinking, the food you're eating, is thanks to this group of supporters. And these are our core institutions. So the actual work of the Alliance throughout the year, a lot of the heavy lifting is done by the 3 host institutions, the Broad, the Sanger, and OICR, where I'm based, with great support from Genome Canada's CIHR through a thing called CanShare, from the Wellcome Trust. And I think we're not allowed to show the NIH logo, but we've listed every part of NIH that's been involved with us. And thank you. And actually, NIH is the major sponsor of this meeting in everything except food and beverage. I also want to point out that in the course of these last couple of years as we've been doing our work, we've come across, and in a couple of cases, partnered with other global organizations. And I think we're going to have a meeting later today with all of these, because what we recognize is that it's much stronger if we can collaborate, much stronger if we can work together, and precious time and energy from many of you in the room cannot be split 6 or 7 ways as we all do similar work. So responsibility on us to get our act together and collaborate. So I would encourage you all to engage with us. Everything, you can learn a lot more about the Alliance outside on the posters, talk to one of our staff, go to the website, read the paper we just have published in Science. There's the Anna Middleton's survey on DNA USA. I see it's around the back of the room, so pick up one of those and be part of that survey. I would say, if you're an individual, join as an individual member, and then bring your organization along with you. And at the end of the day, we need both. Everything we've done has been created by passionate individuals committed to making a difference. But we need the organizations for the adoption and the dissemination and the ongoing support. So as individuals who've contributed, thank you. And for those who are here for the first time, please join us and help lift up even more work as we get more organized, more disciplined, more structured to actually execute on all the great work we've done to date. Thank you.